Good morning and welcome to Wednesday morning, the 26th of January today. And winter continues in the southern tier. Can't get away from it. All right, today's devotion is entitled The Service of the Sod. The Service of the Sod, S-O-D, as in dirt. From Mark 4, 1 through 32. Here's some lyrics to a song. The seed is scattered. It is sown, though it has power of its own. The sower casts it all around. It falls upon the fallow ground. The sower sows in faithful toil, some on rocky, shallow soil, some eaten by the birds that swarm, some is withered, choked by thorns. The seed remains the same, with the mystery of the power it contains. But what produces fruit for God is the service of the sod. Know the kingdoms come to you. If you have ears to hear the truth, if you have eyes that you might see, you are the soil meant for the seed. The mystery of the seed remains. It is so small and self-contained. The sower need not ascertain. And though he sleeps, produces grain. The seed is the word, the good news, the gospel, the message of the meaning of Jesus. It is what the 12 were originally sent out to preach, to broadcast, to cast abroad. That's how they planted their seeds in that day. Reach in their bag, handful of seeds, and they had a technique to cast it out so it's scattered. The word literally means broadcast, to cast abroad. And what we are empowered to preach with our lips and lives and hands and feet. In Jesus' parable, the seed remains the same, but the soils are different. Rocky, weedy, and finally fertile. Notice the detail in the parable that the seed always sprouts and grows. It always does what it is designed and empowered to do. It is good seed. Yet in the first two instances, it does not produce a crop. That, it appears to me, is the fault of the soil. Or perhaps, if you read between the lines of Jesus' parable, it is the responsibility of the one who sowed the seed. Perhaps it is both. The seed has power of its own, but the soil plays its part or not. This is the only parable Jesus explains privately to the 12. It is vital they understand the dynamics of the seed and the soils because they are about to be sent out on their first mission to broadcast the powerful seed. They need to understand that some people's souls might best be described as rocky or full of weeds. And for some, receiving the seed will probably not produce anything in their lives. Though not strictly implied in the parable, yet I really want it to be, Michael Card says. Fields can be rid of rocks and weeds, so there will be other opportunities for the powerful seed to grow. We do learn from the parable that the seed sprouts in all three. So there's always reason for hope. John Bannister Tabb's powerful poem, Earth's Tribute, was a favorite of my grandfather Brown. First the grain, and then the blade, the one destroyed, the other made, then stalk and blossom, and again the gold of newly minted grain. So life, by death the reaper cast to earth, again shall rise at last. For 'tis the service of the sod to render God the things of God. My grandfather was captivated by the idea that the seed had to die. That is, had to decompose in order for it to produce new life. I think that's what Tab is getting at in the phrase, sow life by death. Though the story Jesus tells and privately explains comments more extensively on the conditions of the soils, it is the dying, decomposing seed that does the work, even as the sower is fast asleep. Even though 2 of the 3 soils prove unproductive, the seed always does what it is supposed to do. It dies in the soil and produces new life. Jesus' parables are bottomless. You never exhaust their meaning, never get to the bottom of them. Perhaps another new way of looking at this parable is to look past the soils for a moment and focus on the trustworthiness of the seed. It can always be counted on to do what it is supposed to do. It is as if Jesus is telling the 12 as he sends them out to scatter the seed for the first time, though you will experience all sorts of soils, you can always trust the seed. And there's a parable for the preacher. There's a parable for those, not just in pulpits, but in life, who share the seed, who scatter the seed into people's lives with gospel truths, with truths about Jesus and who he is. And that's the good seed that goes out. It's broadcast out, scattered out. But not every soil is going to be friendly to it. Though this parable, the lyric notes here, though this parable is bottomless like all of Jesus' parables, there's a central point around which the teaching turns. What matters is the condition of the soil, its receptivity, if you will. Some have suggested renaming it the parable of the soils. The most basic application, though there are others, is that the soils represent people. The most intimate application is that you are in fact the soil. And so we need to ask ourselves, is my life receptive to the seed? It's going to be planted, it's going to die and begin to do its thing. But do I do my best to keep my life free from weeds, or to keep my life free from rocks, or to keep it free from the birds who want to come and eat it so it doesn't even get to die and begin to grow in me? It's quite the spiritual picture. And we need to ask ourselves, am I doing all I can to make the soil of my life receptive to the good seed of the gospel of the kingdom? Blessings to you today.